Hi guys, and welcome to another video. So Infinity War is now less than a month and a half away, and I am extremely excited. So I thought, why not go through all of the Marvel films and review them. Now I thought it would be a bit too boring if I just did a single review for every single movie in the MCU, and I thought I wanted to talk about it in a little bit more detail than doing every movie in one video. So I thought I'd do the obvious thing and split it up into the phases. So today is my phase 1 review. So yes, I will do a phase 2 review and a review for phase 3 so far, but today we're just focusing on phase 1, so let's get to it. So kicking off, we're going to be starting with Iron Man, and overall this is just a great way to kick off the MCU. This is a fun, brilliant time. It's really carried by Robert Downey Jr.'s charisma, and of course this was his comeback performance, and overall he just does such a good job. He's so charismatic, he just really embodies the character, and he just does such a good job, and this was just a sign of the great things to come. I also think this one has a really underrated villain. I think Jeff Bridges does such a good job. He's also really nice, charismatic. I don't mind so much that he slightly turns evil too quickly. I personally believe he always had an eye for power, and he just spotted a moment where he just needed to amp it up and take it as quickly as possible. So I do not mind the villain at all. And of course, another great thing about this movie, AC/DC. I mean, come on, that's just a selling point for this movie completely. So overall, yeah, Iron Man is great, an amazing way to kick off the MCU, and definitely in the top 5 of the MCU of all time. The Incredible Hulk, a slightly more divisive one, but for me, a fine watch, but not something I'm desperate to revisit all the time. So I think one of the best things about it is the nice action scenes. I think there are some great things, especially with the college. I think the college scene is a great action scene. I also like the one at the start. The one at the end is a little bit video gamey, but I can cope with it. Edward Norton isn't really as good as Mark Ruffalo, but Edward Norton's still a nice Hulk. I just still don't fully believe him as the Hulk character, whereas I do when Mark Ruffalo transforms into the Hulk. Also, the film doesn't do a great job about making you care for the side characters. I do not really care for Betty Ross at all in this film. I just think that's a really bad thing for the film. They're also very forgettable. I mean, I watched this film about a week ago, and I can't really remember her main significance to the plot. Also, I don't think the scientist that tries to help Banner is actually very good. I think a lot of the movie is focused on him, and I don't think the actor does a particularly good job. The performance is just a bit dry, and overall I could have done with that portion of the film just being cut out, seeing as it didn't actually lead to much in the actual film. However, this is a watchable character study, and I think that's its best selling point. However, I think this film proves that Hulk works better in a group. This is proved by Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, where he works really nicely in the action, and then as a scientist at some points, and then it was also proved in Ragnarok, where he worked really well with a character like Thor. So overall, when the characters are more just base level human characters, Hulk being the main star just doesn't really work for me. But overall, I can happily watch this film, but as I said, I don't rewatch it every time I'm rewatching the MCU. Next, Iron Man 2. I think this film gets too much hate. No, it's not as good as the first, but I think there are plenty of good things about this. Jon Favreau is still a brilliant director for this project. He also introduces Black Widow into this film, and I mean, you know, Black Widow is an absolutely outstanding character. I really want this solo movie to go through for her. I really think that would be a great thing for the MCU. RDJ is still a charming performer. He just does the exact same thing here, and it works. The action is pretty nice. I think the final action scene is where things really get going. I think one of the main problems with this, there's too many plot lines, too many subplots, and the way that some of those plots get revolved. Slight spoiler warning for Iron Man 2. So you have the arc reactor problem, how it's poisoning him. It's not a very entertaining subplot, and then it's solved by just a really hidden Easter egg that shouldn't have been come across, and then the element that can fix it is now impossible to synthesize, and then Tony immediately synthesizes it. So overall, that's just a little bit weak. And also, the villain is quite poor. Now, I don't mind Justin Hammer. I think he's a charismatic secondary villain, but Mickey Rourke is just half-heartedly performing it, and overall, I'm just not a massive fan of Whiplash. You feel like Ironman could just take him down in 5 seconds. But another selling point of this, it has AC/DC in it, and that's probably why I'm not a massive fan of Iron Man 3, because there's no AC/DC. But I mean, we'll get to that in another video. Next, Thor. So I think this has one of the best casts of the MCU. I think the cast for Thor is absolutely incredible. Hemsworth, Hiddleston, Elba, then you've got someone like Anthony Hopkins, an actor of his caliber, doing a Marvel film, is just incredible. I think Kenneth Branagh, the director, does a really good job of creating a Shakespearean Asgard. You really, really like the aesthetics and the way the characters act in Asgard. It's just so mesmerising to watch. The fish out of water comedy when they go down to Earth is also quite funny. It's not anywhere near the Marvel Phase 3 comedy, but it's still a nice bit of comedy and a nice light bit of relief from some of the more darker Phase 1 films. This also has one of my favourite villains of the MCU, Loki, where I think people give him more credit for the Avengers. This is Loki's best appearance by far. Loki really reminds me of Killmonger, or I guess Killmonger reminds me of Loki, because they both have ideas that are feasible and you agree with their ideas, but they're just going about it the wrong way. And also, to them, they think they're the hero of the story, but really they're just going about things the wrong way, so they end up being the villain. So I just think that's such a great thing to do with a villain, and I think that's why Loki and Killmonger are some of my favourite villains. Spoiler alert for Black Panther, I think Killmonger could have become just as popular as Loki if they didn't kill him off. The love interest, Jane Foster, is pretty generic. Natalie Portman doesn't really give it her A game. I'd also probably have preferred less time on Earth. I personally loved Shakespearean Asgard so much that we were bogged down so much by Earth, and I'd have loved to see a lot more of Asgard first time round. But overall, this is another one of the underrated films. I really enjoy Phase 1. I think a lot of Phase 1 films get a little bit too much hate. I think Thor is absolutely a great film. Captain America the First Avenger is another film that gets a lot of hate, but again, I seem to really enjoy it. Probably not quite as much as Thor, but overall it's still a decent time. It's got another great lead. I think Chris Evans, he kind of had a little bit of a falter in his early career, but he really steps it up in the Captain America role. I think Hugo Weaving is an absolutely fantastic villain. I think the Red Skull is a classic Captain America comics enemy, and overall he just does such a good job. He's so menacing, and the transformation into Red Skull, wow, that's a great scene. Peggy Carter is really great. I also love the war montage in this. I think that's a really great montage of action, and overall the action in this is really nice. I really love some of the war action scenes in this. However, my one major problem with this is that they did a lot of cheating to get him into the Avengers. You feel like he is literally just frozen in the ice to be in the Avengers, which is a really big shame, because I think they could have tried to do something more creative, but they just wrote the script and realised, okay, we've got to send Captain America into the future for the Avengers. I also wish they'd have done a little bit more of a build-up for Captain America and Bucky. Spoiler alert for Captain America the First Avenger. So Bucky dies, and I feel like, firstly, they should have built up that relationship some more, give them a little bit more screen time, especially Bucky, so then they can really build up their relationship so the death in this movie has more weight. Also, spoiler alert, when he comes back in the Winter Soldier, you can really feel the emotion of him coming back and the effects that would have on Cap, which overall that could just enhance the Bucky experience of the MCU. But overall, I still really enjoy this film. I think it's hard when you're ending with the negatives, because it kind of feels like you don't really like a film, but there are actually lots of positives, these early MCU films, and apart from one which I'll talk about in Phase 2, all of them I actually quite like a lot. And now, what they were building up to, the Avengers. This is just a beautiful culmination. It was what they were aiming for. I mean, some films felt like setups, like Iron Man 2, but they were finally getting to the Avengers, and when it came, it was an absolutely incredible culmination of what we'd seen so far in Phase 1, just like Infinity War should be a culmination of everything we've seen so far again. This is just another collaboration of some great actors, and what they've done with their characters in their solo films then really meshes together well when they come in together. Their dynamics and the way they argue with each other, the character progressions feel so natural, and also they have really clear growth and change. Like, for example, you can see RDJ, he becomes a little bit less of a prick as things go on. He starts to learn and mould into the team, and Cap starts to take on more leadership opportunities. Banner learns to control his powers. So there's every character, apart from someone we'll get onto in a bit, has some clear growth and change, which I really like. The third act action is also absolutely incredible. It's probably my second favourite third act. You'll know what's going to be my first favourite in a few videos time, because I will probably have a massive rant about how much I love one film in the MCU. But overall, the third act of this one is incredible. It's pretty much all amazing action with some great nostalgic moments. That circle shot is just so beautiful. The music is amazing. So overall, that third act's incredible. If I have a couple of nitpicks, I think that the first sort of 30-40 minutes, it's good rather than great. I think when Thor shows up, it really helps to move the plot forward, and it really adds a dynamic that you feel like it needs for that first 40 minutes. And also, Loki kind of feels disconnected up until that point, because he kind of feels like an oddball out in the universe until Thor comes to kind of match him out and kind of balance that Asgardian presence, which I feel was really needed for that first 40 minutes. Also, my other problem is Hawkeye was wasted. I like Jeremy Renner. I think he's a great actor and he could have given some brilliant things, but he was only able to show that in Age of Ultron and Civil War, where he kind of makes up for this. But overall, you can kind of tell that Marvel buggered up a little bit, and Hawkeye was mind control for 90% of it. Therefore, he wasn't even allowed to do cool things, and then he was kind of sidelined during the amazing third act battle. So you do kind of feel like Hawkeye is not a great character in this, and that kind of sets him on the back foot for the rest of the MCU. But overall, this is an absolutely incredible film, and I watched it a couple of days ago and I want to watch it again. That's how much I love the Avengers. So that's the end of my Phase 1 review. Phase 2 review will be coming very soon. Please like, please subscribe. I'm happy to have a chat with anyone in the comments, and thank you for watching.